Hello and welcome to National Philanthropy Day 2021. My name is Brian Tanner. I'm one of the board members for Advancement Northwest, as well as the development director for Potlatch Fund, which is a native-led nonprofit here in Seattle. I have dark brown hair, dark brown eyes, light brown skin, and I'm wearing a white button-up shirt with a red velvet background. This evening I'll be moderating the live discussion and Q&A with our wonderful speakers today. Before we begin tonight's program, we'd like to do a land and labor acknowledgement. We recognize that we're on the land of the Duwamish and Coast Salish people, who are the original caretakers of this land. We acknowledge that non-native and non-indigenous people partake in settler colonialism by living on and benefiting off this land. It is the duty of non-native and non-indigenous people to uplift the voices and the work of native and indigenous people, as well as take care of the land that they live and benefit from. We must also acknowledge that much of what we know of this country today, including its culture, economic growth, and development throughout history and across time, has been made possible by the labor of enslaved Africans and their ascendants, who suffered the horror of transatlantic trafficking of their people, chattel slavery, and Jim Crow. We are indebted to their labor and their sacrifice, and we must acknowledge the tremors of that violence throughout the generations and the resulting impact that can still be felt and witnessed today. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to 2021's National Philanthropy Day here at AFP Advancement Northwest. We are Haley and Angela, this year's event's co-chairs, and we are so thrilled this day is finally here. Take a moment to quickly introduce ourselves. My name is Haley Miller. I use she, her pronouns. I am currently an Assistant Director of Advancement at the University of Washington, where I work in the Natural Sciences Division. I have brown hair, brown eyes, olive skin, and I'm currently wearing a black and white floral blouse. Angela?
And my name is Angela Neubauer. I use the she, her pronouns. I am the Donor Relations Officer at Seattle Theater Group. I have long, dark, curly hair, brown eyes, olive skin, and I'm wearing a blue polka dot top. We've put an emphasis on access for National Philanthropy Day and wanted to make sure this engagement was accessible for all, and hope this is reflected in many ways, including offering this program at no charge. Notice we have closed captioning, ASL interpretation, and each presenter will give a physical description of themselves, as Haley and I just did, to improve this experience for participants who are blind or low vision. I'd like to thank this year's incredible sponsors for making this event possible. Please join us by giving them some virtual love. Our top sponsors include Bank of America, the Hugh and Jane Ferguson Foundation, the Boeing Company, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the Seattle Foundation. Next, we'd like to thank all of our members of the NPD committee for all of their hard work this year. Lastly, we'd like to thank our community of fundraisers, nonprofit staff, and philanthropists, and of course, all of you for joining us today. After a challenging 2 years, we're so glad to come together with fellow fundraisers and nonprofit staff from across the Pacific Northwest for our 31st annual National Philanthropy Day celebration. If you've attended the classic luncheon and award ceremony that typically marked NPD in years past, you'll notice this year and the event looks a little different, as we've gone virtual for the second year in a row, and we're refraining from awards again. After a year of immense difficulty and many long overdue questions about our profession being raised, it felt appropriate to reimagine NPD, what purpose this event serves, and how it could be altered to keep up with the positive progress this profession is making.
So, in thinking about what the event would look like this year, we first asked our wonderful NPD committee what people loved about the NPD event, and how could we ensure that we bring those positive aspects to this reimagined event. We determined that NPD was a time for celebration, connection, and inspiration. So that's our hope for today.
The event will be broken into 3 parts. First, pre-recorded presentations by local experts on 2 different topics, accessibility and ethics. Second, a live panel Q&A session with those 3 speakers. Third, breakout rooms provide opportunities for discussion and networking. We'll then come together for a few last words of inspiration.
Again, we are so excited for today and can't wait to dive into the presentations. First, we'd like to welcome Advancement Northwest Board President Daniel Webb to say a few words. Daniel, take it away.
Angela and Haley, thank you so much, and welcome again to National Philanthropy Day. My name is Daniel Webb, and I have the privilege of serving as the Board President for AFP Advancement Northwest. I use he, him pronouns and serve as the Managing Director of Development for City Years Seattle, an education equity nonprofit. I'm wearing a blue shirt, I have white skin and short brown hair, and I could not be more excited to be with you today. Here at National Philanthropy Day, we're here to celebrate. We're here to celebrate fundraising and philanthropy in our community. But this has been a really challenging time for our sector. We're still grappling with the impacts of a global pandemic that have upended our lives. We're grappling with inequitable systems that exist within the philanthropic and fundraising community, and our own role in creating and perpetuating harm within the communities that we're attempting to serve. Through the midst of these challenges, this has been an incredible time of innovation and creativity within the fundraising community. We're learning new ways of doing business. We're learning new ways to lift up and center community. We're exploring new ways to center equity in all that we do as fundraisers. This is a long journey, creating a more equitable future for our community. But today we're here to take a pause and celebrate some of the great innovations and creativity that are coming out of our sector. I'm really looking forward to learning alongside you from experts in our field. We're really glad that you're here with AFP Advancement Northwest, and I hope you enjoy the program.
Thank you for that, Danielle. I'm now excited to introduce our expert speakers for the evening. Elizabeth Ralston, Accessibility and Fundraising, and then we have Shannon Wong for Ethics and Fundraising. Again, each speaker will share their work through pre-recorded presentations, and then we'll gather for a live panel and Q&A session. Please drop any questions that you may have during the presentation into the chat. We'll be moderating the chat and include those in the live discussion. And with that, please welcome our first speaker.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Ralston, and I use she, her pronouns. I am a white woman with short, wavy silver hair wearing a dark red blouse, a gold necklace tied around my neck, an antique bronze dangling earring that have geometric shapes. What you won't see are my cochlear implants, my hearing devices, which are on my ears underneath my hair. I have a piano with some pictures on it and 2 flower paintings, as well as a bookshelf next to the piano. I am speaking to you from the land of the Duwamish people in Seattle, Washington. I started down the path of philanthropy when I joined the Peace Corps. It taught me about servant leadership, and ever since, I have devoted my life to helping others be successful. I now work at the intersection of community health, nonprofits, and accessibility. And it's my mission to help organizations engage stakeholders through their programs, events, and spaces by integrating accessibility practices, implementing impactful programs, and using strategic communication to tell stories of impact in an inspiring way. My work with the Seattle Cultural Accessibility Consortium brings these tools and resources directly to the arts community through our workshops and networking events. And yet, an important stakeholder, people with disabilities, are often left out of fundraising stories. I want to talk to you today about 4 things I think you as fundraisers can do to amplify the stories of people with disabilities and center accessibility efforts in your organization. As you know, the mission of AFP Advancement Northwest is to build leaders who fundraise to transform communities locally and across the world. The key phrase for me is transform communities. So this means including people with disabilities. The first thing you can do is to be brave and lean into your discomfort about why you don't know, about what you don't know. Ask questions. Can everyone access your fundraising strategies? Why are people with disabilities not part of your programs or your stories? Why are they not coming to your events? build relationships with people with disabilities, and find out their stories. This consumer group represents an underutilized, think $1 billion piece of our economy. Second, be an ally. Advocate for the inclusion of people with disabilities and other marginalized groups in your organization's programs and events. Explain to funders the importance of equal access for all, and make sure disability and accessibility are part of the diversity, equity, and inclusion conversation. Third, and this goes along with being an ally, make a conscious attempt to dismantle ableism. This means examine the assumptions you make about people with disabilities. Do you make decisions for them instead of asking what works best for them? Do you see the disability before the person? Examine the way you talk about people with disabilities in your stories. Is it inspiring, or is it pity-provoking? Finally, start incorporating universal design principles into your planning process. Everyone benefits from thoughtful inclusion of accessibility tools. For example, captioning, describing images, or letting people know ahead of time what to expect are all ways to communicate your message. There are philanthropists out there who have disabilities, and they will notice and appreciate those efforts. Good luck. Thank you for considering these tips.
Hi everyone, my name is Shannon Wong and I am the Senior Manager of Individual Giving at the Downtown Emergency Service Center. I'm super excited to be with you guys today. I have long brown hair that is frequently out of place, hazel eyes, and today I am wearing a bright pink sweatshirt. My dad never shared his spoon. Weird way to start, I know. I was asked to come here today to talk about the ethical dilemmas that fundraisers face every day. To talk about the question, what ethical standards should exist in fundraising? And how should we decide what is right and what is wrong in relationships with donors? And when I decide how to answer this question in a way that is most genuine, most thoughtful, and representative of who I am as a fundraiser and person today, I come back to one of the earliest things that confused me when I was a kid. My dad never shared his spoon with me. Now, it wasn't just his spoon. It was a fork, a knife, a plate, or a straw. But from a young age, I was always confused. Why does my mom share her food with me, but my dad does not? And weirdly enough, I think the answer to this question is the one that has brought me to this event today. Because to me, the question that actually helps us answer the question about how we as fundraisers can deal with the ethical dilemmas that we face in the field is this: why does the nonprofit field actually exist today? I would argue that our field exists because in one way or another, our society has failed certain groups in certain ways. Nonprofits focused on the arts are the direct result of the lack of investment or the intentional cutting for creative programs in schools, communities, and underserved populations. Those that are focused on feeding the hungry are due to food deserts, the scarcity mindset, and the capitalist monopolization of the agricultural industry. Programs focused on dismantling the school-to-prison pipeline, mitigating the effects of incarceration, or dismantling the devastating effects of systemic racism are the direct result of the decisions of those who hold the power, while those without a seat at the table are left to deal with the lasting effects that have a lifelong impact on them, on their families, and on their children. So when I decided to sit and write a speech about the ethical dilemmas that fundraisers face while making decisions in the field that we work in, I cannot but help think back to my own childhood, my own understanding of how the world works, my own experience of growing up with a father who couldn't share his spoon. To save you all from any further talk about my father and spoons, I will share with you that my father was born with a chronic illness that was common to the place of his birth, one that would forever affect his life, an illness he would never be lucky enough to find a cure. Because he was afraid to pass on the inequities of his own life to his children, we never shared utensils. When my father moved to this country, he endured a lot of the torment and persecution that many nonprofits that exist today work to dismantle. To my knowledge, my father was never lucky enough to be connected with the programs that could have made his transition less painful, more inclusive, and less racist. Which is why I asked myself, why do nonprofits exist today? What was the vision behind why they were created to fill this hole in our society? Whose interests are they actually intended to serve? Was it the donors who expect special perks, who want their name in a certain size in an annual report? Or was it the person who was most hurt by the systems of oppression, the ones who suffered from racism, from injustices, and from all of the things that the nonprofit field was created to address? If the nonprofit field does exist to uplift those voices, I beg to ask you the question, what the ethical dilemma is that we actually have here today. Is it to uplift and prioritize those who have benefited from systems of oppression? Is it to make people feel special who have the ability to make the six-figure gifts? As members of the fundraising field, I invite you to ask this question. What field do you want to be a part of? And what type of leader in this field do you want to be? What type of impact do you want to make in this field, in this community, or in this world? I would invite you to consider that the question should not be, is it okay to take money from donors who gained it in a bad way? But instead, what can the fundraising field be for those who it was intended to serve? How do we want to shape the field in a way that we can make it so we can be the example that our donors need? How can we bridge the gap of understanding that there are reasons why our clients and those who are receiving our services are the ones our organizations were created to serve, while others are in the advantageous position of making donations to our organizations? I would argue that answering these questions are the first step to having the answers of which ethical dilemmas fundraisers actually face. And it is my belief that we need to answer these questions before we can get to the real ones that plague our field. Until we are able to answer the questions about what the ethical dilemma actually is that we are truly facing as fundraisers, I feel we may fail to address the root causes that nonprofits are hoping to accomplish. I have always believed that solving the world's toughest problems takes the dedication of many passionate individuals believing that they have the power and ability to do so. I am extremely passionate about the work that the fundraising field and everyone here today is doing to solve our community's toughest challenges, and Advancement Northwest's dedication to creating a space for these difficult but constructive conversations. Together, I look forward to working with you all to turn the confusion of a young kid who didn't understand why she couldn't use her father's spoon into inspiration and action that can change the world. I look forward to learning from all of you on this journey as we continue to improve the field of fundraising and for all that we will accomplish in this field now and for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. How much time do I have to answer that question? Wow, that's a really great question. And before I continue, I want to say that I'm in a different room from my video, and I want to describe that. I am sitting on a couch with a beautiful, colorful quilt behind me and some flowers in a poster above me with some leaves from Central Park in New York City in a photo, in a what do you call those, picture, I guess, next to me, above me. So I would love to see nonprofits really think about doing some hard, important, and necessary internal work, because they have to start from within. So nonprofits need to really come together around this issue of accessibility and philanthropy, and think about the policies and the standards that they want to put into practice if they want to be consistent with introducing and integrating accessibility within their programs, events, and spaces. So that internal work is going to be the most important thing they can start with. And that would look like, for example, sensitivity training for staff, training on all kinds of issues, how to make your marketing accessible, how to talk to funders about accessibility, how to build relationships with disability communities or people that you're not familiar with. How do you actually engage people in the mission of your organization? So I'll stop there, and you can ask follow-up questions if you want.
Okay, yeah, I just want to remind everyone that you can use the chat function if you have any questions for our two presenters. And my next question will be for Shannon. In your presentation, you pose several questions that fundraisers, nonprofits should ask themselves. And it's through asking these questions, we'll be able to determine what that actual ethical dilemma our professional faces today is. And in the process, recenter our focus on what really matters, the communities who nonprofits were originally created to serve. And oftentimes this focus can be driven by the metrics and the dollars in the door. Do you have any suggestions for ways to refocus our work and what success looks like so we can return to the real purpose of nonprofit service?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Brian. And hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here with you all. I think that in terms of asking the question, what success looks like and how we return to the real purpose of what nonprofits were created to do, which is serve the populations that we were intended to serve, I think that I would be remiss to not give a shout out to CCF, Community-Centric Fundraising, who really have been like a pioneer and innovator in asking these types of questions and centering fundraising models that are grounded in equity and social justice, which I really truly think is the core of the nonprofit community. I think that we're really at a pivotal point in our nonprofit and community and fundraising community history in terms of we really do have a chance now more than any time before on how to decide like what success looks like. I think that capitalism is such a pervasive thing in all of the things that everyone does in society, and too much of these things have entered into the nonprofit field. The scarcity mindset, the competition over collaboration, the power and information hoarding that exists not only in the nonprofit field, but in so many other fields that we exist in our society. And I really do think that we have an opportunity to ask if these are the dynamics that we should use to guide how we see and value success in the nonprofit industry. Is using measures of success like number of six-figure gifts or competition for grant dollars or high return on investments really the best way to measure success? And in thinking of metrics of success, is that how we incentivize people who are truly passionate about the missions that nonprofits serve to stay in the field? So I think that maybe it is the measures of success that we have used in the past that have ended up being the things that have plagued the nonprofit fields, like high turnover rates, burnout, things that truly cost nonprofits money and inhibit us from truly fulfilling the mission of our organizations. So in terms of asking me for tips of ways to refocus our work and what success looks like, I would invite everyone who is here today to ask the questions like, what are the measures of success in my workplace? are they valued aligned with the missions of the nonprofits? For example, I work at a organization that is hoping to end homelessness, and I could ask myself, is the measure of success number of gifts from people to make it so I can show that like we were able to have this return on investment of an appeal? Or is it, are we getting out the word to have our community understand the issues that our nonprofit is serving and trying to address, which is really more a societal issue than it is a particular like problem with our organization? And if the metrics of success that your organization is using to say that you're successful as a fundraiser is not aligned with your mission, I would invite you to ask the question, why? Why is this the metric of success for me when the real point of our mission and our organization is to serve the people that our organization was created to serve?
Great, thank you, Shannon. We have a wonderful question from Tracy in the chat. She wants to know, could Elizabeth give a few examples of accessibility marketing?
Absolutely, it's a great question. I could speak for about an hour about accessibility in marketing, but I'll give you a couple of examples. When you market fundraising strategies to your donors, are you thinking about whether your donors can access that information? So if you're using videos, are all your videos captioned? Are they audio described? And audio description is simply a way of describing the action in the video, because a blind or a low vision person could not see those moving images. And audio description can actually be integrated into the video as opposed to doing a separate stream outside the video. I'm not explaining that well, but an audio description can be simply a description of a action that is about to happen in the video. Another example would be to, whenever you send out postcards or brochures or things like that, indicate that your program is accessible, either by whether there's going to be an interpreter present or whether there's going to be low lighting in the program that you're attending, because we're not just considering people with hearing loss and vision loss, we're also considering people with invisible disabilities or disabilities that are not apparent, and we're also considering people who are neurodiverse, and those could also be invisible. So you want to consider the wide range of disabilities that you could be reaching. Other examples are using images, using alt text or image descriptions in anything that you're putting on your website or your social media. Just like Shannon keeps saying, ask the question if can people access what I am communicating out? So.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. We have another question from Roland in the chat. Would like to ask a question about fundraising ethics related to whether or not we take certain dollars from certain donors, specifically from corporate donors. While we may not want to impose our values on how individuals got their wealth, should we not watch what organizations support what programs related to how those companies build and are still building wealth? For example, if LGBTQ rights are centered to our values or mission, can we take money from a Chick-fil-A? If not, then why not extend that same restrictions to individuals who may have gotten their wealth from Chick-fil-A franchise ownership?
Yeah, I'd like to take a stab at this one, Elizabeth, if you don't mind. I thank you for the question, Roland. I think it's a really important one. Part of the way that I see myself as a fundraiser in this field and kind of as a conduit between the people who are doing the work and the people who are supporting it through, whether it be corporate donations or individual gifts, I think that fundraisers in general have a really unique position to share access to the information that we have to help educate and help share the knowledge that we have about the field that we exist in to donors in ways that they might not have access to the information. And I think that it is our duty as fundraisers to always ask the ethical question, is the thing that I am talking to with this donor best serving society and the people that we are trying to help? And I think that in the fundraising field in general, you know, like I know that there's this huge tension between making sure that you have like the data to say, yes, like I'm an effective fundraiser because I'm bringing in these gifts. It's so easy to show that X amount of gifts shows good job performance. But I think that we're at a really unique time in our fundraising history to encourage people in the fundraising profession to be an example of talking to donors in a way that educates them and that gives them an opportunity to understand not only why they're in the position to make the donations while others are in the position to receive our services, but to also encourage people to think about philanthropy in a way that is a part of the larger societal structure of why nonprofits need to exist in the first place. Because at the end of the day, I think that there are so many reasons why nonprofits exist. And part of the reason why is because people haven't had enough education around systemic racism, inequality, all of the different things. And I do think we have a really great opportunity as fundraisers, as people who are really immersed in this field, to share the information about the particular populations that we're working with and why they are in the position that they're in. And I'll just bring it back to like a probably too personal example, but I remember this one example I had at an organization in the past, and I was like, what is the ethical dilemma I'm facing here? You know, like, should we get this one gift from this organization that has historically done a lot of harm to our client population? And I ended up having a conversation with my therapist about it, and she was like, Shannon, you know, like at the end of the day, what are the ethics and like what matters to you as a person, and what is the true value of what matters to you in terms of how you decide to act and be in this world. And I think if fundraisers ask the question and focus more on being like, okay, well, if I don't have all of these dollars coming in, I'm bad at my job. Like, what is it that matters to you as a person? And if it feels ucky to you to take a gift from an organization because of particular reasons, that's a good sign that you might need to have second thoughts and like have conversations with other people who might understand the struggles that you're dealing with. And I think that there's lots of other people in this space today that would be willing to have those conversations with you.
Great, thank you, Shannon. We have another question from the chat from Erica Chen. This one's for Elizabeth. How do you suggest the philanthropic sector address ableism when it comes to invisible disabilities like neurodivergence and mental illness?
That is a great question. My answer would be is to invite them to be at the table with you, and to say nothing about us without us. So get to know those people, invite them to be on your board, hire those people, and examine your own assumptions about what it means to be neurodivergent or have a mental illness. Because again, if you see the disability before the person, you're not really looking at the talents and the skills and the perspectives that they are bringing to the table. So, so I would say really examine those assumptions that you're making in terms of ableism. Being really careful about inspiration porn. And I say, I give you a couple of examples. Sometimes I'll go into a grocery store and I'll see somebody, I'll start talking to someone and they say, oh, you have an interesting sounding accent. Are you from Australia? And I say, no, No. Are you from France? No, I'm not. Wow, where are you from? I said, oh, I'm from here. I'm from, grew up in Buffalo, New York, on the East Coast. And they say, no, that's not possible. Why? And I have to explain that I have a hearing loss. So depending on my mood, I say I have a deaf accent, or I'm from a country called Deaf Land. It just depends on my mood. But then the person will go, wow, you speak so well for a deaf person. How is that possible? So immediately that statement separates me from them and puts me in another category. So examine those perceptions that you have of people who may have a different talent or a different kind of ability from yourself.
Great, thank you, Elizabeth. So for our last question, I'll start with Shannon and move to Elizabeth. But what is one thing that makes you hopeful for the future?
Sure, I think that is a great question. I have to warn people that I'm overly optimistic pretty much at all times. I think that there's a lot of things that make me just hopeful for the future, especially in terms of our field. I think that, the pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement and a lot of other things that have existed within our society today have been really transformational in the way that people see philanthropy and that people exist in this field in general. And I'm really inspired about the conversations that have taken place between people who are doing the important work that we're doing, because I think that, fundraising is such an interesting field, right? It takes a very interesting skill set. You have to have the ability to talk to people, but also understand metrics in a certain sense and be able to relate to people on a certain level. And I think that something that really excites me about this field, and I say this too much, but I think I'm going to look back on this time of my life and realize that we're in a really unique position right now as a field, especially here at Advancement Northwest, to make really important changes to the fundraising industry to make it so we are going to have the opportunity to make the people who are doing this work more representative of the people who are served by the nonprofit communities. And I think that there is a insistence and an importance and just a true push right now to make it so our nonprofit field looks like the people who are served by the nonprofit communities. And I am really excited with all of the conversations that I've had with fundraisers who more so than ever before have been interested and open and willing to do this work to make our nonprofit field look this way. And I think that I will look back on this time in my life and just be super excited to be surrounded by everyone who's here today, everyone who's interested in digging in and doing the hard work, because I do think there will be bumps along the way. It is going to be hard work, but I'm really excited to be having these conversations today and to be part of this time where I really do think that we will make a difference for generations to come.
Thank you, Shannon.
That is a great answer, Shannon. And I want to just add to that in saying that I think the pandemic and the Black Lives Matter have kind of blown everything open, so that people are now talking about these important issues even more, and the intersectionality of all of everything that comes hand in hand with anti-racist work and anti-ableist work is really getting out there, and so it makes me feel optimistic that people are maybe starting to pay attention a little bit more to those issues which really matter. So I'm just really grateful that people are asking questions and are kind of coming out of their comfort zone and asking, how can I be an ally? How can I take a stand against racism? How can I take a stand against ableism? So that's why I feel optimistic about what's to come in the future.
All right, thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, Jeff, for providing ASL services. I'll be turning it over now to Haley, who will bring us to the next portion of the evening. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Oh, one moment. Want to save you all from some echoes. Wow, what an incredible conversation. Thank you, Elizabeth, Brian, and Shannon for sharing your wisdom and thoughts. That was incredible. So we have a very fast-paced moving program tonight. I'm sure you've all noticed we're packing a lot in. So I am here to share the next step, which is going to be breaking into breakout rooms for networking and discussion. I'll share some prompting questions in case you need them. Feel welcome to share, what's your area of expertise? What are you interested in? What brought you to NPD today? What is your favorite thing about fundraising or the nonprofit world? What interested you most about this discussion? What are you most excited for the future of fundraising? Those are just some promptings, but feel free to let the conversation take you where it does. So with that, we will split into 8-minute breakout rooms and I will see you soon. All right.
All right. I hope everyone had great conversations in their breakout groups. Thank you again for joining us for National Philanthropy Day. This has been very thought-provoking and a great evening with you all. Now, time for the celebratory part of our evening. We have a few local musicians who are going to be sharing their talent with us today. And I'd like to now celebrate with our fundraising community. And thank you for joining us for National Philanthropy Day.
Hello, I'm Alessandra Rose, and I'm here today to say thank you to all of the fundraisers and the nonprofit workers in the Pacific Northwest. We recognize all of the very hard work that you do to better our communities. Today, on National Philanthropy Day, we want to celebrate you. Here's a little song. And now, I'll turn it over to my friend Ron.
Hey, aloha everybody, I'm Ron Ortiz II, and I'm honored to be here with you guys this evening to share a song. This song's called No Wait, and it's just to be a reminder that there will be a lot of things in life that knock us down, but there's no weight in this world that will keep us down. We can lift one another and live with love. And just to let you know, I'll be up in Seattle at the Neptune Theater November the 16th, performing and celebrating our new album, as well as celebrating 100 years for the Neptune Theater. That's right. I'm really honored to be doing this and seeing you all there. Aloha, and here's the song for you. Best way to rise is to go lift somebody up underneath the weight of the world, but don't go giving up. Oh, oh, oh. I keep singing songs and hope that I would see you smile again. Yeah, yeah. We've lost a lot, but we'll get through a little more. Don't be afraid, the pain can't hurt you stop our love. And no way it's gonna tear us down. No way it's gonna take the crown. No way, no way, no way. You know the power of love, how much it's gonna change. But how can we come along if we remain the same? We keep singing songs and hope that we would see you smile again. Yeah, yeah, come on. So no way it's gonna keep us down. No way it's gonna break us down. No way it's gonna stop our love. And no way it's gonna tear us down. No way it's gonna take the ground. No way, no way, no way. So no wait, no wait, no wait. Aloha, you guys. I love you. God bless you. See you soon.